Brian Robb, 922 Union Street. Once again, I'm speaking about ordinance number 29, new Marina Park ordinance you have on the table today. At the risk of repeating myself, I must again take issue with the description of this ordinance as being a clarification of the 1995 Citizen Pact Ordinance, which you are now referring to as Ordinance 14-3, which is not really the correct name for it, but that goes back to the measure title. I feel that Ordinance 14.3 was very clear in its desire not to see additional commercial operations at Port Marina Park, other than what is there. The voters knew this when they made their choice of the ballot box. The new ordinance simply voids the meaning and intent of 14-3 and goes against the will of the voters. I'm very confused by the frequently asked questions that you have in your packet there. Specifically statements 2 and 4. In the fact, it says the ordinance 14-3 is being repealed and has to be repealed. I assume this means it is repealed by clause 10 in the ordinance, new ordinance. But that clause says that any policies that conflict with the new ordinance are hereby repealed. Well, in the fact, statement number 5 specifically states that policies are not laws. So I feel that that clause does not repeal the ordinance because it only repeals policies, it doesn't repeal laws. And if it is the desire of the court to repeal ordinance 14-3, it should simply say so, and it should say so in the new ordinance. And if you're using clause 10 as a blanket repeal statement, I think that's really kind of hiding something there from the people. If ordinance 14-3 is to be repealed by ordinance 29, as I said here, then it must specifically state so by using the court's own reasoning. The voters need to know that their will is being overturned by the passage of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm next. Okay, well, I didn't really write anything or prepare anything, but I got. Well, yeah, my name's Brian Carlstrom, 100 Highway 35, the river. So often I hear the court talking about the parks not creating the revenue stream that they are hoping for, and there's their remedy for that is to try to bring in some revenue, and that's just not the nature of parks. What I propose for the port, and the example's been set with the waterfront park, which was Portland before, lot 6, I think it was, and it was donated to the city of Hood River on the condition they would do a good job building it, and maintaining it, that sort of thing. And as anybody who's gone down there has seen, that that's been a huge success. That's one of, and I hear people coming from Portland when I go down there. I see people and I talk to them, and they say, "Oh yeah, we came up to the river to go to this park, and go to the businesses across the street, Solstice or Frame or Ferment or something like that." So that has been proven to be a success, and I propose that you do the same with all of your parks, because there's such a burden on the port, and the port, as I've heard many times, it doesn't have the revenue stream from taxes that the city has. Incidentally, I did talk to Mayor Blackburn, River Mayor, recently about this proposal, and he was open to the idea of looking at it. So I think that would be, he didn't say yes or no, but he was intrigued by the idea of, especially this Marina Green area. I know he's a proponent of parks and greenery, and I think that should be pursued. Relieve the burden that the parks have on the port. You can focus on things that are more port oriented, like the industrial sites and that sort of thing, the port and the airport, of course. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. That's it? Okay. I hereby close the public hearing on the Marina Development Ordinance. The next item is second reading and passage. I do have a question for you about this, Kevin.
Yep.
Process is outlined here. But my understanding is we already completed.
So you have to do a second reading by title.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the reading of ordinance 29 by title only?
Second.
Discussion.
There's only one thing that I would like to say, through all of this. I know that the FAQs were put out today, and thank you, Kevin, for doing a great job in a very short amount of time. And I know that there was maybe one or two inconsistencies in that, and so, you know, obviously need to button those up a little bit. I want to thank both Brian, or all three, Brian, and Linda, and everyone else who has made comments on this. Everyone went about it the appropriate way, came with very good questions, very pointed things, very but you did your research, you contacted the port, you met with commissioners. I just really, you know, this is the way that the process is supposed to go, and so I just want to acknowledge and just say that I greatly appreciate that, and it makes me, you know, I really want to make sure that this is clarified. And so I know that there was a couple of things in the FAQs, and so what I'm curious is, does the hearing today end this process? Or I want to make sure that these fine people who have showed up, that we're all, no one feels slighted, no one feels bait and switched, no one feels like we're pulling the wool over anyone. And so I don't know where to, I don't know what our options are.
So there's a couple things here. One is making sure that the entire board understands the intent of this ordinance.
Correct.
You know, and so I want to make sure that the way that this was crafted by Ashley, discussed, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, is to allow the port the potential to develop that exempt area in the 6F property at the site where the DMV and the old chamber building are. That's the intent here, that there could and may be development at that site.
And that was my question this morning. My question is on the ordinance. I can read that. It reads fine. My question was on the clarity of the FAQ.
Right.
I don't want, and I agree with that. I don't want the FAQ to be able to be read as we're trying to either hide something or say that we're not going to do something, or going to do something that perhaps we're not or will. I think it should just be crystal clear. And when I read that, I could see a couple of sections where it read like maybe we're saying we're not going to do something, or potentially not going to do something. And I just want to be very clear and transparent that the ordinance is going to read that we may look into that for that particular area.
Yeah, and I think that's where Ashley, we had a conversation, Commissioner Beaker, Ashley and I did review that, and I think there is going to be a slight edit to the FAQ, which should clarify it better.
Thank you.
The ordinance itself, though, is as we discussed, as was intended.
The way I read it is.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I just didn't want anyone to feel like there was something being passed and something being told.
Right.
I want it to be very linear.
Is it Ashley?
I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Just so to add 2 comments to that. First, I do appreciate how open and clear the commission is attempting to be with the public on this. I do feel like, you know, you are giving people time to comment. You are allowing, you know, you are attempting to answer questions with these FAQs. I definitely don't want to add any sort of further confusion with the answers to these questions. The intent as I read it, of the original ordinance and continuing in the new ordinance is one, to continue to use undeveloped pieces of property within this area only for recreational purposes, and two, to allow properties that have already been developed within that area to continue to be developed. So to the extent that any of those properties fall within the exemption area and they have already been developed, then yes, they would continue to be developed. Same goes for any other property within that area. If it's already been developed, then it can continue to be developed. Subject to, of course, city zoning laws, subject to federal restrictions, including the 6F restrictions, etc. Right? The only express call out that we made in that ordinance is for the bridge replacement project. So we wanted to be crystal clear with the bridge replacement project. However it is characterized, it is permitted. We didn't put any similar exemption for the exemption area. We simply said that properties that have been developed may continue to be developed. I hope that adds some clarity and doesn't further confuse things. The other comment I wanted to make just now was I appreciated the public comment about repealing prior ordinances versus policies, and that section of the ordinance that we drafted. I think that the intent there was simply to address any prior policies, in fact, administrative policies that the port may have on that area of land. But we also could be crystal clear in this ordinance, again, to be open with the public, that it is repealing that prior ordinance, right? That doesn't have to be implied, that can be expressly stated. So if you are hoping to move forward tonight with a motion, you could move to pass the ordinance as written with that minor amendment of clarifying section 10 includes expressive repeal of 14.3.
Thank you, Ashley. If there's no further discussion, yes, you've got a question?
So I am new to the group. I just wanted to be really clear with that I'm not as informed as other commissioners. And so I had a discussion, one of my orientation meetings with Mr. Greenwood to talk about when do you abstain from voting and why would you abstain from voting. I've gone through the ordinance. I've really looked at the purpose and its authority, the publication process, all the definitions, because there was a concern about developed land versus undeveloped land and conversations about that. I looked at the different legal lots to see what was developed and undeveloped land to really understand the way that this is set up. I have a little understanding of the 6F property and what can be done on 6F property, both with the port building currently we're sitting in on 6F property, and also why this is designated 6F property. I've looked at the bridge exception, and so because getting to the bridge, Amendment 5, I will be voting tonight because I do feel very informed of this. And anything that stops the bridge from being built, in my opinion, stops community development, and something I stand for is specifically the community and what brings jobs and economic development to the community. So I just want to explain that. I am coming in a little bit late to the game, I'm acknowledging, but the reason I believe I do, after speaking with Kevin, feel like I have a vote and I have a voice in this. I really support the way that it's written, how to appeal and amend, because it's pretty easy to take a meeting and a motion and to get this and to move forward. I like the idea, Ashley. Thank you so much for the clarifying for the public comment, because that was something that I really did hear, and that was going to actually cause me a little bit concerned. So thank you for bringing that up. But I just wanted to make sure I said that before moving forward. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so votes, we've already to read it.
Ben made a motion, Christie seconded, so you just need the vote now.
Yep. Commissioners?
So do we say aye as amended to add that?
This is just reading.
Oh, we're not yet. Aye. Thank you. Aye.
Aye. So Patty.
Aye.
Director,
Ordinance number 29, ordinance amending Port Marina Basin development rules.
Okay. So can I get a motion to adopt it?
So just to clarify, so Christie, if I'm listening, you were wondering about adding the direct repeal of 14.3. So Ashley, check me on this. So you could make a motion to adopt ordinance number 29 with the modification of the direct repeal of 14.3 if you so choose.
So I have a question for the commission. And, you know, I don't like to drag things out, because that wasn't expressly said in the FAQs. Does the commission feel like we should give the public another opportunity, since that clarifying language is there, before we agree to make this adoption, so that there is just none of this, you know, I didn't know, I'm raising my hand too late? And I don't know how the commission would feel about that, but that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Just because this is kind of a big,
So that is an option available to you. Like I think one of the questions in the FAQ is, do you have to do it? Can you have a month delay? You certainly may, if that's what the full commission chooses to do. One question I do have for Ashley is, does this ordinance, since it was read by title only, does it have to be unanimous?
oh,
That's a good question. I can look up your bylaws right now, but it would probably depend on what your bylaws say.
No, I can know.
if someone wanted to really come to the commission and express a huge, I guess, issue, saying that they weren't aware that it was going to replace or repeal the earlier policy. I know it's been explained in meetings. I don't know what to do. I agree with you that it is incredibly important in that this cannot hold up anything with the bridge. Especially with all of the awards that just happened, all of everything that is happening in the legislature. I don't want any ripples of doubt to be sent anywhere either. And so I'm very, very torn on that.
I can't take your question right now. As a public meeting, there's a public comment opportunity. That was the hearing portion of this. And then this portion is where the board is meeting and having a public meeting, but that is only to say that it is a meeting open to the public, not with the public. I hope that explains it well.
Well, I understand what you're saying. There were some things that I presume as the lawyer said that were inaccurate.
Well, it's important that we don't get into debates and arguments in this part of the meeting. So if there are inaccuracies, that's something that you would submit separately. So right now, I'm just asking, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance number 29 with or without an amendment specifying that the prior 14.3 is being repealed as part of the process? Like, that's a separate issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it does or does not need to be. That's the part.
It does not need to be
It does
there.
not need to be.
No.
And you can do it later if you choose to.
Correct.
Yeah. we make that.
Can I note for you all that if you would like to further fact gather, you can also open your public hearing and discuss this more if that's something you would prefer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reopen the public meeting. If you'd like to step up and raise your concern, I'm fine to do that. And you can raise the question and
Okay.
we can get an
I
answer.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I guess the people in the audience are the ones who are kind of the old guard here, because it seems as with the previous meeting, a lot of the port commissioners didn't really know that there was an initiative. And now what I'm hearing is that the intent of the original initiative was to allow development on those buildings there. That was not the intent of the initiative. The intent of the initiative was to protect the whole waterfront. Because those buildings were there, we were going to allow them to remain there in their use until they're not, but not to develop them. And I heard the attorney saying they want to, that because they were developed before, we could develop now. No, it's not the intent of the initiative. It never was.
Okay, thank you. Are you making a motion?
Yeah, that's the intent of this.
I'm gonna close the hearing.
I'm gonna close the public hearing. Yeah, and moving back to the discussion of the motion under.
I understand the intent of the 30-year-old initiative, but I also understand the intent of this new one, so. And I'm fine with it as it's written, and I don't think, I respect the comments I've heard, I don't think that changes anything. I think people have had plenty of time, should they wish to comment on this, and I'm glad we did that. And there will be more, I'm sure, but I'm fine with that as it's written. Do I need to wait and see if we have to be unanimous on something? Do I have to?
You know,
I don't think so.
Then I would move to pass ordinance number 29 as written.
Do you have a second?
I will second. Can I make a comment with my second, or I guess?
Sure. So there can be further discussion at this point.
So my
Yeah.
discussion would be that, I believe that the intent of this commission is we have buildings that are in need of repair. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our community to balance recreation with economic development. I feel that if we do not give us the opportunity to repair or refurbish or redevelop on that regard, on those parcels, I think we would be shooting ourselves financially in the foot. That being said, I also wholeheartedly agree that, again, with this waterfront strategic plan and community plan, there's no way that I believe that I am going to decide what's going to go in that parcel there, and it should be a community decision. If we repair, refurbish, redevelop those two things, but I agree, we don't need strip malls, we don't need giant business parks or anything like that.
Rotting in place is also not an option.
Also an excellent point. So in that regards, I will second.
Okay, votes.
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Heather,
Yes.